Hey everyone, welcome to the AEW Dynamite post show. I am Excalibur, joined here tonight by none other than the human suplex machine Taz. And Taz, we had a really fun episode of Dynamite here tonight.
I really dug it. I loved it. Just to go out of order for a second, not to get into it, but just the one thing that jumps out is the bubbly bunch. I didn't know that was going to go down, so I hope we get into talking about that, Excalibur.
Oh yeah, it's in my show notes. It's actually
I'm kind of jealous. I wish I was involved with that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. It was. I think a little different of a show from last week. This was. I think last week a little bit more kind of straight wrestling through and through. This one little bit of a variety show kind of feel to it.
Yeah, I think because it was, and I think it was great incorporating other people that are not able, like us, not able to that weren't able to get to the shows and get to work. So I do think it's pretty cool creatively how our creative team and production team is incorporating that. But I think you're right. I think it's a good breakdown right there. That maybe not that it was less wrestling, but it just didn't feel as wrestly in a good way. It felt very like good entertainment, really good wrestling, good matches. We learned a lot. And also, I think we got to mention Excalibur, JR, for those that didn't watch this week. He's not with us here on this post show because JR, if you didn't realize, is called the main event, which we'll get into in a second with Moxley against Big Jake Hager.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool also to hear your segment where you broke down the head and arm triangle. And that was really cool. I mean, that was kind of taking some online content and putting it on the main show, which, it's, I think, under normal circumstances, a segment like that has a time and place. But I think, now you being able to do it from, your home and then, send it to our guys and, having them stitch it all together, I thought it was like a really great thing. And there was a time not too long ago where you'd need like a recording studio in your house to be able to do
I know, right? It's pretty cool. So real quick backstory on that, and I'm glad you liked it, Excalibur. I was going to ask you if you liked it. Not that it being self-serving, but I'm not. But you and I are the same. We're fans of holds, we're fans of moves, we're fans of throws, even though as a former wrestler, yourself as a former wrestler, we're still fans of what guys do and girls do. So we like breaking it down. But so when I did the one on Cody, that I did that editing and everything, and our social media manager, our sensei of social media, as I like to call him, Jeff Jones, he came up with the name for the gimmick, the technique by Taz. Everyone loved the name for it and the company, and then I did all this stuff, and it was really cool, and people loved it and all that. And then once our production studio TV got involved, that's what you saw on TV. I did not do any editing. They did everything.
So Are you saying that these motion graphics professionals know a little bit more about video editing than you do, Taz? I don't believe it.
A bit more than me. Yeah. Once thinking, I'm like, God, dog it, man. That shit is badass. Yeah. I was like, wow. So yeah, the pros took over. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it looked great, and it was also great to hear JR on the call in the main event. But as you mentioned, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Dynamite once again this week started off with some words from the Snake, Jake Roberts, about his client Lance Archer, who was successful in his opening round, or I guess his quarterfinal round match, against Colt Cabana in the TNT Championship tournament. And Taz, were you surprised by the result of this match?
No, I wasn't surprised of the result. I think most were looking at Colt Cabana as the underdog in it, even though he went into this match at 3-0 in his AEW career. But I did look at him as the underdog in it, and I think most people did. It's just because Lance, coming in with the hype that he has, and he can back up the hype with a guy like Jake Roberts with him, calling out Cody on a regular basis, Jake and both Lance. But I will say, to Colt Cabana's credit, I thought Colt had an excellent outing tonight. I thought his work looked great. I thought the wrestling was excellent. I enjoyed the match they both had. I'm not knocking Colt. I was not surprised that Lance Archer won the match, but I did think Colt looked real good. His aggressiveness was there. Intensity was there. He's a polished professional in the ring, Colt Cabana. And even though he's a seasoned pro, I think a lot of his better matches, believe it or not, in my opinion, are ahead of Colt. He showed tonight against a guy like Lance. I thought he looked real good. Were you, Excalibur, surprised at the result of the match?
Well, the one thing that surprised me at first was that Cabana didn't really match Archer's level of aggression. But then the more I thought about it, the more I realized that Cabana was actually wrestling his style of match. He is a little more technique oriented, whereas Archer's kind of brute force bull rush. And I think Cabana's strategy in the match was to get Archer to make a mistake and to use his Cabana to use his superior technique to take advantage of whatever mistakes Archer might make. But I think Archer is on just such a path of destruction here in AEW that he's not going to make many mistakes, and if he does, he's going to be able to recover from pretty quickly.
Yeah, and look, if I remember correctly, not looking at the match, but the match started off with Colt coming in aggressively with a nasty forearm shiver, a couple of them right to the face of Archer, and then Archer just retaliated with one and dropped Colt. So he brought that intensity to the point you're making. But how about this, Excalibur? The strength and power, if we could jump ahead a little bit in the match, of the finish of the match.
Oh, man.
How strong is the Murder Hawk Monster? This guy's an animal, dude. Colt's a big dude. And I think Jericho and Tony Schiavone pointed that out. It's a big guy to do that blackout to.
Yeah, 242 pounds for Cabana. And Archer just able to lift him up, hold him up, and then hoist him over the top with that blackout. And I mean, Archer is just a beast. And if, for the fans joining us on YouTube or Facebook, if this is your first time seeing Lance Archer, or perhaps your first time seeing this iteration of Lance Archer, he is, just freakishly strong. And, we saw just a little bit of that here in this match against Cabana. But Taz, Archer's going to face the winner of Dustin Rhodes and Kip Sabian. And actually, if you guys have questions for us, drop them in the chat about the Lance Archer and who you think he'll end up facing in the next round of the TNT Championship tournament, whether it's going to be Dustin, whether it's going to be Sabian. And, I think if he's in there with Sabian, obviously he's got a very distinct size advantage, Taz. But if he's in there with Dustin Rhodes, that's somebody that can almost look Archer dead in the eye.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Excalibur. I mean, from a height perspective, obviously, what is Archer? He's 6'7", I believe.
6'8", I think.
6'8",
6'6".
6'6". Yeah. Now, I've never been in the ring with Archer. I've been in the ring with Dustin, and I've talked about this when you and I've called matches with Dustin in it when I was on a call with you. And he's Dustin is extremely rangy in the ring. A lot of guys that are that tall are very rangy, but when I watch Archer in the ring work and wrestle, he doesn't seem as rangy as Dustin. Dustin, he kind of, when you're in there with him, it's real tough to explain, but he's everywhere. He can take over the ring with his limbs. It's crazy. The only other guy I ever wrestled that was like that was Booker T. He was very rangy. Booker was like 6'3", 6'4", whatever, but Dustin at 6'6", rangy all over. Watching Lance, he doesn't seem as rangy, even though he's taller. If that's the matchup we get, if Dustin, let's say hypothetically, beats Kip, I do think it could be very interesting to the point you're making, because both guys being so tall and big. But I would. Obviously, the years of experience would be in the side of Dustin if he ends up advancing. The power I'd have to give to Lance, but height, you're splitting hairs with a couple of inches. So,
I think you're exactly right, Taz. Dustin kind of if he were a boxer, he'd be a guy that likes to keep you at the end of his jab, whereas got the Tony Weiser there, man.
Oh, you're gonna get me heat calling the Tony Weiser, but I got it. Dude, the Tony Weiser, I'm on my 5th one.
Oh, man. They sneak up on you. Just ask Joey Janela.
No, I'm not like Janela. No, I'm only joking, too. If I have 2, I'm good. I'm a lightweight. I'm not like you. I've been at the bar with you.
Hey, man. What was the point that I was making?
Archer and Dustin.
Yeah. Dustin's the kind of, if he were a boxer, the kind of guy that keep you at the end of his jab. Whereas Archer, despite his reach and despite his size, more of like a pocket puncher, and likes to get in dirty, likes to mix it up with guys up close. Yeah, and that they say styles makes fights, and that could be really interesting. Or we have the potential of Kip Sabian and Lance Archer, which would be a first-time matchup, and a matchup that I'd be super excited to see, Tez.
I would too. I love Kip's work. I love Penelope's work, and I bring up Penelope because a lot of times, and we've both witnessed this, we've called it. We see how they both help each other. And if, let's say, Kip does advance and he ends up facing Archer, and Penelope is allowed to be ringside. I don't know if Archer's used to. I know he's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. I don't know if he's used to somebody like that. She's very crafty. We saw her get involved tonight. She's Penelope is a key component to the success of the whole super bad gimmick Jones there. My man Kip Sabian. So yeah, I'd keep an eye on Penelope. But I'll tell you, I think that'd be a cool matchup if Kip advances, like you pointed out a few minutes ago. A size advantage obviously massively would go towards Archer, but Kip is very resilient. He's got a lot of heart. He's ultra athletic. He's
fast.
He's super quick, super fast, and he's super bad. See what I did right there?
Oh wow, it's almost like you've done this before.
I don't want to brag, but
Well, the next matchup we had on Dynamite was in the women's division. Dr. Britt Baker, just 1 week off of getting her nose broken by Hikaru Shida, took on Cassandra Golden in her second ever All Elite Wrestling matchup. And the matchup for Cassandra Golden ended up the same way as her first. She was defeated by the more experienced opponent, but it was a good outing for her, but an even better outing for Britt Baker, Taz.
Yeah, no, I know. And Britt Baker she's like a total package. And I think she's really, we've seen Britt or Dr. Baker early goings in AEW. She was a fan favorite. Let's be honest. She was total babyface Jones and everything. And then we saw that metamorphosis, that change in her when she buried Tony Schiavone on the Starbucks promo. And it got her over even to another level. It got over Tony Schiavone to another level. Even though Tony's over already, he was over even more. I mean, she, I think, being that heel persona, I really think gives Britt Baker a totally different confidence in her promo work, in her in-ring work, her intensity. And I can tell you from experience, when you're wrestling, all the years I wrestled, whenever I had a chance to be a heel as opposed to a babyface, a good guy is a lot harder work as a wrestler than it is as a bad guy. And I think that she just seems very comfortable working as a bad guy, as a heel, Britt Baker. And I love the promo, the vignette they did with her in her dentist's office. I thought that was great too. But yeah, I mean, how can you not be a fan of her current work and what she's doing? I'm excited to see this thing advance even more. And by her getting her nose busted up by Shida, Excalibur, I think it even helps get her over even more, and the way she's playing off of it.
Yeah, definitely kind of raises the stakes, introduces some new stories into the AEW women's division. I mean, just because of the, to pull back the curtain a little bit, because of the circumstances, the way things are now, our women's division is very, very spread out. We only, have a few women that can actually be on Dynamite every single week. And so this does add kind of it's fortunate that it, kind of adds a layer of intrigue to the women's division that might not have been there. Nyla Rose unable to travel because of the shelter in place order. So, for now she can't defend the AEW Women's World Championship. And, so the title hunt is usually kind of the A story, but having this kind of budding rivalry between Britt and Shida, I think that adds some depth and adds some intrigue. Right. And Taz, just to kind of expand upon the point that you were making about right. Britt and her transition, there are certain people that are technically babyface wrestlers, we'll say, right. like a Darby Allin, but there's nothing inherent that he does that he's not slapping hands, he's not taking pictures with right. kids, he's just
he's cool. He's cool, he's young, he's exuberant, he's
cool and he's charismatic, and that kind of shows through on television. Where Britt, her, there's the term resting bitch face, right? Where and I mean this in the nicest way, where there are people, and this is not just applying to women, there are people that they can look surly. Jim Ross, actually, perfect example of this, because of his struggles with Bell's palsy. Jim cannot smile. I don't know if that's something that people know. Like, the muscles in his face will not allow him to smile. So Jim always looks unhappy. But if you talk to him, he could be in the greatest mood. You just have to find out. And I think Britt, because she's so focused, because she's so determined, people perceive that as arrogance or, disdain or something like that, where it's just, I mean, that's Britt's personality. She could be having the best day in the world, and if you spoke to her and asked her about it, you might find that out for yourself. But if you're just looking
Right.
on the surface level, you're like, oh, what's her problem?
Well, no, I think that's a good breakdown right there, Excalibur. But she's, and I personally like Dr. Baker. I respect her work. I've had many conversations with her.
Is that because your dental plan is accepted at her office?
This is true. Yeah, my dental plan through the Joey Numbers insurance plan is, yes, it goes right through that area of Pennsylvania. But anyway, no. So here's the thing: like Britt Baker's, I just think her persona is just perfect because I do think in her heart she's a heel. I mean, she works like a heel. She wrestles in the ring, works like an old school type heel. I think this is perfect for her, and to play off her being a legitimate shoot doctor, I think is freaking awesome. It's a layup. It's easy. And look, let's be honest. Business with her and Shida. Shida, because her first language obviously is Japanese. She's not going to be able to cut the same type of promo to the level of, let's say, a Britt Baker. So I think it's always important from a creative perspective to have one person at least to be able to carry the promo end of the storytelling. Again, pulling back the curtain, just let's be honest. Most people that are watching a web show at whatever the hell it is, 10:15 p.m. Eastern, they're kind of smart to the gears they make. You know what I mean? So let's be honest, right? So, I mean, so I do think if you have somebody that's able to cut promos and carry that end of the storyline, like a Dr. Britt Baker, where Sheeta's going to get over by her in-ring work more than her promos and her the beautiful smile she has and the way she conducts herself. And she's, and we know, we've talked about Sheeta. We know her history, not just as a professional wrestler, as an actress, a musician. She's so talented. Cody's talked about her social media. It's unbelievable. I mean, this young lady, she's so talented. It's the stuff she does on social media just shows her talent. But in my opinion, I do think it's important to have someone like Dr. Baker as that heel with someone like Sheeta. Now, you mentioned earlier about, some of the ladies and men having to stay home, the wrestlers, the AEW stars. And I do think, Excalibur, this is a perfect time to build and develop people, and develop them even more, like Sheeta, even though she's a top women's competitor, as is Dr. Baker, but develop them even more. Because if your champion's not there, you know what I mean? I just think it's a great opportunity, and I think creatively we're taking advantage of that.
Yeah, I think so. And, I mean, Dynamite has been going great, I think. And also, I think the post-game show has been going great. And I think Chris Michaels in the chat says, great work, guys. And we appreciate that. So, Taz, big ups to you.
Well,
and
big up to our colleague. Just read the ones where they put us over.
Yeah. That's totally my strategy. Not my first rodeo, Taz.
All right.
Yeah. Talking about Britt Baker, and
what are you drinking? More importantly, you're not drinking nothing tonight.
No, just got regular schmegular water.
Oh, come on, bro.
Yeah.
I've seen you in action. I mean, come on.
I haven't eaten dinner yet. I gotta lay a base down first.
By the way, another side note: that AEW shirt you're wearing, I want to buy that one. Well, I have a connection, but let's tell people where they can get that. Obviously,
well, they can go to shopaew.com and they can get the latest in AEW styles. We've got AEW shirts, we've got wrestlers merchandise, and also want to give a special shout out to Pro Wrestling Tees. Even we know that the wrestling world is a lot bigger than just AEW, and that's a great way to support some of your favorite wrestlers, that might be, falling on hard times, baby.
Yeah, sure. It's tough. It's tough for a lot of wrestlers out there, guys and girls on the independent scene. Everything's going on right now in the world. I mean, it's tough for these, obviously fans can't go to shows. So, smaller promoters, even bigger promoters, doesn't matter. You can't run shows, and so a lot of these men and women that are on the independent scene, it's tough for them to make a living right now. So, I think that's a good point, Excalibur. Support them and support their shirts and their merch. That will help them if you can.
Yeah. That's of course nobody should be going into debt, but if you're able, however small, it is very much appreciated.
Yeah, and
we talked about Britt Baker and her best friend in the world, our colleague Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone will actually be doing a Q&A tomorrow,
really?
On YouTube. And Taz, you didn't seem too happy about this on Tony Schiavone's Q&A tomorrow, April 16th at 8/7 Central on Facebook and YouTube. You can ask Mr. Schiavone, Mr. Schiavone, just anything that's on your mind. Taz, do you have any questions you'd like to get in for Tony?
Yeah, I'd like to know, how is it possible that you are the most over man in the company, on camera and behind the scenes? How I have not heard. Well, let's do a two-shot. I need to see Excalibur, please, on this one. Our producer, if he doesn't mind. I'd love to see Excalibur. I have not, because I want to see the laugh. And you're wearing a hood, but I know you're laughing. I have never, in all my years, Excalibur, in the wrestling business, I broke in the late 80s. I've never seen anyone not have heat with anybody in the company. That pisses me off. So if you don't have any heat with anyone and everyone loves him, now I have to not like you, because someone's got to hate you. So, and in my heart of hearts, I actually like Tony a lot. We communicate a lot. We text a lot. We bust each other's balls a lot. But it's once I heard in our pre-show meeting that Tony's going to be a Q&A, and that's on Facebook Live Jones, right? So that was doing tomorrow night?
And YouTube tomorrow, 8/7 Central.
It's just amazing to me that Tony, it's okay. We're talking about our friend Schiavone. Let's go through the litany of shows and things that he does here at AEW. Do we have time? I mean, can we go to like midnight?
I don't think we do.
I mean, from Dynamite to Dark to Road to Jones to now Facebook
top five, the top five of the week. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's like I'm gonna retire and become this guy's agent. It's unbelievable.
Well, it's interesting because I recorded a remote episode of AEW Unrestricted podcast.
Thank you. I was going to say the podcast. Yeah.
The podcast with Tony Schiavone and Aubrey Edwards, and that'll be coming up in the future. But on the episode, I did mention that Tony Schiavone is the only guy in the AEW that has it written into his contract that he gets paid by the syllable. And so, not even the word, it's the syllable, Taz. And so, even though he might not say a lot on Dynamite when it's me, Schiavone, and JR, he makes up for it on all this shoulder content, on YouTube and on social media.
Well, he says enough behind the scenes, though. He makes up for that. I'll tell you that right now. But he, and by the way, you missed a good opportunity to plug on Unrestricted that I was on there this past week. If I could be a little egotistical and agenda loaded.
What, you? Never.
Yes. Come on, bro. I got to get over a little. I got to put myself over, bro. I'm a wrestler from the 90s.
Yeah, you got shirts to sell, man.
Yeah. I'm a wrestler from the 90s, bro. We're all about paranoia, bitterness. What else? All of that crew. That was a bad crew, right? Bitterness, paranoia, pettiness, loaded with petty.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a super petty guy. Like super,
I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, super petty. No, but anyway, I love Tony Schiavone. Don't get me wrong. I do. He's a little bit of a pain in the ass. I do. If I saw he was about to get hit by a bus, I probably would yell, "Hey, Schiavone," and then go the other way. Hopefully he moves. I love Tony. He knows that. It's funny. He was texting me during the show only when there were segments that I was on TV. And then once
you couldn't watch yourself,
bro. It's a shoot. And then once I was like, and then like later on, like whatever match it was, and I'm texting him, and he ghosted me. I'm like, yeah, Tony, it's amazing. I know I'm on Dynamite. Usually I'm on the YouTube gimmick. Thank you.
Well, Taz, you mentioned it earlier on at the top of the show, the Bubbly Bunch. Chris Jericho getting the inner circle back together, whether it's via FaceTime, Zoom, Google Hangouts, however he did it. He got everybody together, and we got to hear a little bit from each member of the inner circle, which is not something we actually get. So this was kind of fortunate.
I loved it. I thought it was really, really cool the way it was done. Again, pull back the curtain for a second, Excalibur. Like with like you said, who knows if they did Zoom, whatever, with the 8 boxes, whatever it was, and we saw that anybody who watched Road to, there was something similar with this with Schiavone and Cody, Joey Janela, Britt Baker. Help me. Butcher, Blade, Bunny.
Yeah.
It was. Hopefully, I'm not missing anyone. It was really funny. And I'll tell you, it reminded me of, I don't know if you watch Saturday Night Live much. I'm not like a diehard guy, but my wife will watch it. So this past Saturday, I was watching it. And, all those comedians that work on that show, they're all home also. And they did something similar with the box gimmick, all of them. And it was pretty funny. And then it's like a day or two later, I see on Road to, and then the Bubbly Bunch. I love it. I don't know whose idea it was. I don't care whose idea it was. Production-wise, it was cool. Everybody looked great in it. There was Sammy G and Jake Hager, and when he said to his kids, earmuffs kids, and he said he's going to beat the shit out of Mox. I thought that was funny by his pool. Santana, Ortiz, the whole thing, Jericho, Orange Juice Jones. I thought the whole thing was great. I loved it.
Yeah, and I thought it was actually really cool that Santana Ortiz did mention 125th and Lennox, because one of my favorite spots in New York, Golden Crust, right around the corner from there. And so,
look at you.
You ever go to Golden Crust, Taz?
Listen, don't ask me too many questions about New York, but I have a question for you. No, I haven't. I know.
Oh, man, the oxtail, dude. Oh, you gotta go.
No, but here's the reason, bro. Because tell me how often do you go to New York?
Not very anymore. I used to live in Westchester.
You told me that. You told me you used to live in Westchester. So you'd go to like where? You obviously you'd hit Manhattan. You'd hit the Bronx. Get yourself some oxtail, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I'd come down to either Grand Central or Penn Station, or because I was on Metro North, stop at 125th and get off there, go get some good food, jump back on the train, head back home, like that sort of thing.
That's not, your stuff, kid. That's pretty good.
I'm telling you.
Pretty good. I thought you just sitting there in San Diego looking at palm trees your whole life. That's what I thought you were doing.
Dude, I'm telling you, I am dying in here because it was like 80 degrees out, and I got the door closed. All the heat from everything coming off the mask. It's too much.
Yeah. Too much. But do you have a pool? Yeah, you're getting a pool, right? Installed?
No pool.
Well, I have a pool, but it's closed because it's still a little chilly here. So I'm opening my pool this year earlier because who knows how long we're going to be stuck. At least I can sit by the pool. You know what I mean? But I figured right there at 80 degrees. I mean, just chill by the pool or have a tennis court and put a ring on it.
There you go. That's like the BTE compound is
great. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job on those play-by-plays. I watch BTE all the time. What now? But a lot of people hearing this already. BTE will hit 200, right? Episodes
200 next Wednesday or next Monday. BTE 200 comes out. The match with Matt and Nick Jackson. That should be one for the ages. Looking forward to that. And if for some reason you're watching us here on the AEW Dynamite post show and you don't know about Being the Elite, head over to the Young Bucks the Elite YouTube page. You've got almost 200 episodes of BTE to catch up on before next Monday. So
most of you got plenty of time sitting home chilling, so you got time to catch up.
That's exactly right. And Taz, before we get off the subject of New York, Tom Marquez asks, is the truck still in Canarsie?
Oh, my God. Tom Marquez. Wait a minute. Is that Jeff, you gotta get involved. Is this a rib? Someone text me and let me know if this is a shoot or a rib. This has got to be a rib. That's a real inside term. And if that's the real Tom Marquez.
Deep cut, man. Deep cut.
A rib. The truck is still in Canarsie, for those asking.
Okay.
For those that don't know, Canarsie is Brooklyn. Yes. So Tom Marquez, great to hear from you, pal. Is that right?
Well, back on the Dynamite train, the next matchup was Shug D, or as Tony Schiavone called him, Suge D.
Yeah, Suge D. And then they left his name for a little while. And Pineapple Pete Jones.
Yeah, Pineapple Pete Jones taking on Pete Jones. He was from the Monkees, right?
I think he was actually. No, was it Pete Jones? Was he Pete Jones from the Monkees?
No, it was.
No, it wasn't. Who was his name? It was Pete. Not Pete Williams. He was an enhancement guy for WWF years ago.
Well, Brian Jones is the guy from the Rolling Stones that died.
Brian Jones is also, I did radio when I used to work for CBS, and he played linebacker for Texas, University of Texas.
And he was in the Rolling Stones? That's amazing.
And he was in the Rolling Stones, yeah. Brian Jones. Great linebacker, D1, and he was in the Rolling Stones. Unbelievable, talented guy.
Well, Sammy Guevara defeated Shug D, and Guevara heading into his TNT Championship match next week with with Darby Allin. And Guevara looked good, but Shug D, I think, hung around a little longer than just about anybody expected, Taz.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Excalibur. But I have a feeling that Sammy G kind of let him hang around a little bit because he likes to toy with people. And then he hit that delayed vertical suplex, hooked the head, almost got the pin on it. I remember that. And I'm like, wow, he could have had the pin if he would have put more weight on that cover, and he didn't. And I'm like, he's playing with this guy and Pineapple Pete, Shug D. So But yeah, I think, and the six Excalibur. Sometimes let a guy hang around too long, you can get beat. That didn't happen with Sammy Guevara, but still, I think he was trying to send that message, in this TNT Championship tournament, how that he's going to be a viable threat and he's going to get his thing done.
Yeah, Guevara's had a long-running rivalry with Darby Allin, and we'll see the next chapter of that next week in the quarterfinal round of the TNT Championship tournament. The winner of that match between Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin will go on to face Cody in the semifinal round of the TNT Championship tournament. So it's a match to keep your eye on, a match to look forward to. And while we're on the subject of the TNT Championship, the tournament, Kip Sabian, who, as we mentioned, will face Dustin Rhodes next week, faced Big Dust, Chuck Taylor, this week. And he came away with a victory, though, once again, Penelope Ford proving her value as an asset at ringside, Taz.
And I think it was smart to do this against someone that who's going to get the victory in this match. It's obvious, but I do think, and we just talked about it a good amount earlier in this episode here of the post show, the chemistry, with Penelope and Kip. I mean, they're a shoot couple, which, if you don't know what that means, they're real, and they're
engaged.
They're engaged, correct? So, which means they're going to get married. If you didn't know, so they are really dialed into each other, and it's and them just like I do, Excalibur, backstage in the locker room area. They are as close as they seem. Like, they get along great. A lot of I don't know, all the years I've been with my wife, I don't know if I could ever work with her, and I know she couldn't work with me. So. I promise you that one. So I don't know about you, but so to me, it's refreshing and it's pretty cool to see how Kip and Penelope work really well together. But at the end of the day, yeah, she could help him. Penelope could definitely help him, meaning Kip. But at the end of the day, Kip's going to have to get this thing done on his own. So we're going to see as he advances here.
Yeah, this was a really, really well contested match. Kip and Chuck Taylor both looking good, and Chuck Taylor getting another singles opportunity here in AEW, and each time he's looked impressive, and this time he actually turning the head of Le Champion Chris Jericho. Jericho, I don't think was super high on Chucky T before a couple months ago, but based on what he's seen, he's come around in a big way.
No, dude, I think you're right. I mean, and look, how Chuck, if you've never seen Chucky T wrestle, Chuck Taylor, if you've never seen him compete, and you look at him, it's deceiving in a way, because he doesn't look like a guy that he doesn't look like super athletic. Like
he's got average white guy written all over him.
That's the right way to put it.
As an average white guy, I can say that.
I was okay. I was dipping and dodging. You just nailed it. Boom, right down the middle. That was great. But I promise you, if you've never seen Chuck wrestle, this guy is a bona fide professional, and he's a veteran, and he knows what the hell he's doing. And I was well aware of Chuck Taylor's work before I even got into AEW. So he's been around the block a few times and knows what he's doing. He's a character. He has a lot of fun in the ring, and he goofs around a lot, but he also knows what the hell he's doing. And I'm a fan of his work. I'm a fan of his gimmick. And I enjoyed the match with he and Kip. I did. I definitely enjoyed the match. And I'm not surprised that La Champion Chris Jericho was impressed with Chuck.
And so moving on, we had a man who competed in the first match of the TNT Championship tournament, Shawn Spears, who was defeated last week by Cody, but has strung together an impressive winning streak last night on Dark, defeating Billy Gunn, and then tonight making short work, as Le Champion said, of Justin Law. And Justin was, he was dressed, he was present, he was ready, but Spears just overwhelmed him.
Yeah, well, Spears, you could just see totally different level. No disrespect to the young man that he was facing, but Spears, he if I remember correctly, he kept his T-shirt on the whole way and just went to town on him. And once he started chopping that kid in the corner and blew him up with a clothesline, it was like, I'm like, well, he could do whatever he wants right here, Shawn Spears, anytime he wants. And I think it was a good way for Shawn Spears to send that message. Because look, I did the pre-show earlier with Alex, right? And I was talking about Shawn Spears, Excalibur, and I want to get your take on it too. When he lost to Cody last week, he didn't get beat with the Crossroads. He got beat, as we discussed last week. with that figure four while Shawn Spears' shoulders, he got caught. And that could happen to anybody. He got caught, got pinned 1, 2, 3. I'm just saying he looked good, and he looked real good tonight against a guy who's not a contender. But I don't think people should be sleeping on Shawn Spears right now. I do think he's going to start lighting things up. I understand he's out of this TNT Championship tournament now, but he's going to start lighting things up. Give me your breakdown of where he's at, how he's looking, Shawn Spears.
I think you're exactly right, Tez. He came into that match prepared for Cody. He had already been beaten once by Cody back at All Out in September. He wanted another crack at him. He wanted another chance to prove that he belonged. He belongs in AEW, that he's not just, as Cody called him, a great hand, that he's actually a championship level contender. And he did a really, really good job of proving that. It's just, you're exactly right. He got caught sleeping, and that can happen to the best wrestler in the world. You get rolled up, you're not paying attention. Cody putting so much downward pressure on the knees, the lower body of Spears, that it took his mind for literally just 3 seconds off the fact that his shoulders were laying flat on the mat. And so that, is a great heads up move by Cody. And you're exactly right. Spears didn't get beat. He just had a mental lapse, and that cost him this match, and that cost him the spot in the tournament.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think that anyone should. I'm not saying anyone is, but I don't think anyone should look at Shawn Spears as an afterthought at the current moment and the current status of all elite wrestling. And I think when you have a mind like a Tully Blanchard in your corner, in your phone, calling you, texting you, in a situation where now I'm sure that, obviously they're not hanging out together, but the communication, I would assume, is 7 days a week with Tully and Spears. So to have that mindset along with Spears' athletic ability and his, how many years he's been in the business and his success in the wrestling industry, he's always in search of that tag team partner, and Tully's trying to help him. We've covered that a whole bunch on AEW Dark, but I do think when that time is right, you could have Spears, if he gets his mind off of the tag team stuff, and him and Tully are focused on a singles run, as we call it. He could be deadly. I mean, Spears has the skill set to be deadly.
Yeah, and one thing that I think when people because of the wrestling business, because of the way it is, they see like, oh, Tully Blanchard is Shawn Spears' manager. What really is a manager? But Taz, in some of the buildings that we go to, and you can attest to this, the announcer's dressing room is also the coach's dressing room. Like we're all kind of piled in together. That's right. So that means sometimes we'll be in there with Tully, we'll be in there with Billy Gunn, whoever the case
may be.
Anderson,
whoever it may be. Right. Yeah. Right.
But Tully and Spears actually comes in the coach's dressing room to change, and he sits with Tully, and Tully has his iPad with him. He's pulling up matches from YouTube. He's showing Spears stuff, and then they actually travel together. They, they live in different cities, but once they get in the same city that Dynamite's in, they're staying at the same hotel. They're driving to and from the building together, and so Tully has taken this mentorship role on Spears. This is not something that we just kind of say on camera. This is something that they've legitimately found in one another. And I think whether Spears is able to win the AEW World Championship, the TNT Championship, or just have a great run in AEW, a lot of that will be because Tully Blanchard has taken this mentorship role over Shawn Spears.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, and you're on point, Excalibur, and everything you said to shoot, because that's exactly what happens. And we, like you said, we've witnessed it where Spears and Tully would be sitting next to each other in the locker room where we all change, and it's like in the dressing room, in our specific room, a lot of times, like you said, in some of these buildings. And yeah, they are just constantly, it's a skull session. It's constant. And I was saying to myself one week, I don't remember where we were, and it might have been Salt Lake. I can't remember where we were. I'm like, God, I wish these guys had their own room. I love them both, but I don't need to hear this. I need to prepare for this, for that. I'm carrying this guy today. This time I'm carrying this guy tonight. I'm very busy, Excalibur.
Hey, man.
Not you. No, but anyway. And it's the same with Arn Anderson and Cody. Cody, everybody knows as well, Doc, but he's one of the EVPs, and he's a pioneer in AEW. But you know, Arn Anderson and Cody are always talking, and it's like, just imagine an athlete the level of a Cody, an athlete to the level of a Shawn Spears, and to have those two minds individually working with you, from a Tully to an Arn Anderson. That is something, boy. That's something for success.
Oh yeah, and I mean it's like having your own private reservoir of professional wrestling knowledge that you can dip into at any time you want, that nobody else can dip into, and so that's hugely beneficial. And I mean, what it does also is it hands off the knowledge from generation to generation, and that in 20 years or whatever, when Shawn Spears is in Tully Blanchard's position, he can then take that kind of mentorship role over somebody else that's young and coming up, and it's the passing of the torch and passing of the knowledge through generations. So it's really cool to see and get to witness firsthand.
It is, yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I think it's very important for fans to know. Like, yeah, sure, it's sports entertainment, it's professional wrestling. Our talent are wrestlers. They're AEW wrestlers. They're AEW stars, but they're wrestlers first.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they're entertainers also. And we're pulling back the curtain a good amount here, and letting people know, like, with stuff with Tully and Spears, and stuff with like Arn and Cody. It's legit. It's a shoot. Like, these guys are really in these guys' ears and working with these guys and helping these guys. And it's not even, you would say, well, Cody don't need help. Well, Spears don't need help. You're right, they don't. They've been successful without those men helping them, and they can be successful without Arn and Tully helping them. But they're both, not to group Spears and Cody together, they're both so hell-bent on being even higher successful and being humble, that they want to learn from those who came before them, even though they're both veterans, meaning Cody and Shawn.
Well, somebody that I've learned a great deal from, and that I can't say this enough, is well, A, my broadcast partner Taz, but B,
hold on, hot shot. Hold on. Okay, I got a problem with you, and I'm glad you brought that up.
B,
can I finish my thought, or you're gonna?
I thought you were done, man.
No, I said I have a problem with you, and you're
sorry. I was so into my own point that I was going to steamroll you.
Thanks. Last week on this post show,
sure.
Show you how petty I am. You referenced JR as your broadcast colleague. And then you said, and we have Taz here too. What the hell was that? Like, I'm like, damn, that was a dagger right in my heart, and twisted it. I'm like,
so dude, here's the thing.
I couldn't sleep all night.
These are not intentional daggers. These are inadvertent daggers, because then I will get texts from Justin Roberts saying, "Oh, I guess I'm not part of the broadcast team either." And I was like, I can't win.
And you know what, Justin? You're not doing play-by-play, and you're not doing color commentary. I'm saying this. You are the best ring announcer in the business. There's no doubt about that. And you're a very talented man, and you're damn handsome, and you're a hell of a dresser. But and you are a broadcaster. But it's different, Justin, even though you're not here, and you're probably not even watching this. But when you hear about this, you will watch this. And I can't even blame Excalibur, because I'm saying it.
That's right.
Too many white claws.
Speaking of one of our broadcast colleagues, Justin Roberts, you can catch him with his new YouTube series, Thank You for Being a Friend, which is on AEW YouTube, and hope you check that out. He interviewed Scorpio Sky last week. There's QT Marshall this week, and
good job. QT, is QT gonna have like a barrel of apples, like he's gonna have a bunch of apples with him? He lives the gimmick.
That's right. That's all he eats is apples.
Fiber intake. He's got gas.
Oh my God,
Actuant is unbelievable. There it is.
Look at that.
Thank you for being a friend with QT Marshall, Apple Jones, and our friend, our broadcast colleague, Justin Roberts. Yes.
Well, speaking of broadcast colleagues, a man that I've learned so much from, the Hall of Fame voice of professional wrestling, the author of Under the Black Hat, the best-selling memoir by none other than the legendary Jim Ross. It was great to hear Jim Ross back on the call this week for the main event matchup on Dynamite, Jon Moxley versus Jake Hager, AEW World Championship match, no holds barred, empty arena, anything goes. Taz, what do you think of this one?
I loved it. I loved it. I tweeted about it once they went to commercial break. After the first commercial they went into, after Moxley and Hager started going after it, getting after it. I thought, as far as JR, I thought he sounded great. Doing it solo, as you know, because you've done it Excalibur solo, it's not as easy as people think when you're solo. And I think that JR, and I was not shocked, neither were you. He sounded great. He obviously was prepared. He's a pro's pro. It and it's going to sound, I don't mean to be rude. I think this is going to sound really crazy. And I don't want anyone to be offended. I think I like this match that it was in an empty arena. I like that it was quiet. I like that all you heard was JR and Mox and Jake physicality and the referee a little bit here. It felt like I was there. You know, it made you feel like you were there without being there. It just felt very intimate, you know, and I kind of liked it. And I loved the way these two men for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship went at it early on. A lot of wrestling, a lot of straight wrestling. I didn't expect that. Straight wrestling. We saw a lot of ankle picks and single legs and key locks and different double wrist locks and joint locks. I thought it was great. I didn't expect. Did you expect them to do that, you know, early on and just wrestle and some catch style?
Not at all. I was expecting Jon Moxley to immediately try to rough up Hager and try to make him uncomfortable, where I think Moxley, and I maybe that's what Hager expected Moxley to do, but Jon showed his kind of his wrestling prowess, and not just his MMA style grappling prowess, but his you know, the wrestling that he learned from Les Thatcher, that you know, how to hang with somebody in a professional wrestling ring, and he hung with Hager, and that was very surprising to me. But when things turned around was when it got outside and Moxley was able to use his environment and use the non-traditional elements of a pro wrestling match. And I think that's when it kind of shifted in Moxley's favor. But you know, you've been around hardcore wrestling, you've been around deathmatch wrestling, you know that it's you can get hoisted by your own petard. You can get bitten just as quickly as you can bite your opponent.
Absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about it. And I agree with you. And the thing is too, okay, like I think it's important to let people know, you know what I mean, Excalibur, you'll know where I'm going with this right away. Fans to know that never, maybe you never, most people listening to us or watching us right now, never been a professional wrestler, never even trained to be a wrestler. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are current wrestlers, maybe they trained to be wrestlers. For those that never been in the ring or never had any kind of training, or you just always wanted to do it, or maybe you didn't have the athleticism, or you didn't have the money to get trained, or you didn't have the time, you were in school, whatever the reason is, it don't matter. But what I'm getting at, the big buildup, what I'm trying to tell you is most pro wrestlers they're trained to wrestle the way you watched Mox and you watched Hager exchange holds and chain wrestle and use some catch wrestling style. Most guys, I think Mox broke into business like 2000, what year? 2, maybe 3, 4, something like that. I don't, somewhere around. Does that sound right? I don't know.
Yeah, around 2003, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So, you know, I think it's important for fans to know you might see a lot of, in professional wrestling, you might not see a lot of switching of holds and chain wrestling and stuff like that. Because a lot of times, just to be honest, because we're pulling back the curtain enough here and we're having fun with it, you know, and I know I'm not telling you this, Excalibur, you know this, but so like most wrestling matches on TV, when it's a match on Dynamite, like most matches, there's time restraints. Let's be honest. There is. You don't have all the time in the world. A match like this, when it's for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, you know, there's a lot of time dedicated to the match, because there should be. It's a prestigious match. It's for the World Championship, you know, and it's a great way for both men to show what they're able to do, a full gamut of their offense and how they can defense against their opponent's offense. And we witnessed that tonight with Mox and with Hager. And I thought it was awesome. Now, you and I think we're on the same page in our prediction. I know you picked Mox, I believe, and I picked Mox.
It's interesting that the wrestling guys picked the pro wrestler and the MMA guys picked the MMA fighter.
Oh, that was weird. And you know, but like once they went to the outside, to the point you made earlier here in this episode of this post show, once they went to the outside, and we both had a feeling, and we didn't just talk about it. We gave our predictions, like the company Access 2, and we gave our predictions. Once they went to the outside, it fell into the realm of a guy like Jon Moxley, the AEW World Champion. And I think that helped him gain that victory, along with that steel chair, obviously.
So you bring up the chair, and I think that's a very important point, because Hager introduces that chair to the match. He starts smashing the ankle of Moxley, but ultimately the chair is something that is more synonymous with Jon Moxley than Jake Hager, and that chair proved to be Hager's undoing and what won Moxley the match. And so I think that was from a storytelling perspective, that was a very genius move by Jon Moxley to use that chair to his advantage, because that's something that Hager's not as familiar with. And even though Hager was using it as a shortcut, Jon Moxley knows how to use it more effectively. And ultimately he made Hager pay, and he retained the AEW World Championship.
Yeah. It's, I mean, look, I don't care, win, lose, or draw. I still look at Jake Hager as a legitimate threat to any man in the ring in any company, namely in this company in AEW. So my point is, I'm pretty sure that you're going to see Jake Hager down the road someday soon with another World Heavyweight Championship opportunity.
Yeah, this will not be his last.
Yeah, exactly.
Or TNT Championship.
Good point. Yeah, I got to get used to that. That prestigious championship is now in the company. We don't even have a champion yet. We're going to crown the first one ever through this tournament here.
Yeah, and so we've got a couple minutes left. So guys in the chat, if you have any questions for us, if you want to talk about the TNT Championship, who you like, who you think would be the best matchup for Cody and Archer, and who would be the worst matchup for Cody and Archer, we'd love to hear it. But Prince Leo in the chat says, whenever Blood and Guts happens, Taz, who do you think is going to win, the Elite or the Inner Circle?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's tough. I would look at the Inner Circle. I think the Inner Circle, I think that you're going to have a Jake Hager whenever this happens, Blood and Guts. But when you have a Jake Hager who now, just imagine, Excalibur, how pissed off and hell-bent that Hager must be right now, and he's going to be for like a lot of weeks, because he did not win this match and did not win the championship. Just imagine how pissed off Le Champion, Chris Jericho, the leader of the Inner Circle, how mad he must be. Not at Hager, but just in general. You got Santana and Ortiz, who have, they haven't been able to go to the shows. Once these men get to the shows, they're going to be just on fire. Sammy Guevara, he's already on fire. So, I look at, and I understand you could say some of the same about the Elite, about the Young Bucks in California. I get that. Kenny Omega is looking great, and he's one of the, he's the best bout machine. What the hell? I mean, when you have a moniker, the best bout machine, you're pretty freaking good. He's been pretty freaking good for like a long time. World-class international star is Kenny Omega for years. So to answer the question in long form, I think the Inner Circle, I look at it as the favorite whenever Blood and Guts happens to win. What do you think, Excalibur?
This makes for a bad point and counterpoint show, but I agree, because I think the Elite they're fractured. And, when Blood and Guts was originally supposed to happen, Nick Jackson was out of action. Matt Hardy was going to take his place. Now there's the question, is it going to be Nick in there? Is it going to be Matt Hardy in there? Maybe Hangman steps out and, he lets Kenny, his one half of the AEW World Tag Team Champions, maybe he lets it go alone with Matt Hardy instead of Hangman. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of fractures or fissures in the Elite. And I think the Inner Circle, I mean, as we saw the Bubbly Bunch tonight, they present a very united front. And that's hard to overcome.
It is. And I think fracture is a great word, Excalibur, when you think about the Elite. But there's such a great bond with them that they can gel that thing. Hangman and Kenny and the Bucks, Cody, that thing can gel quick. That's what you got to be careful. They might seem fractured, and I agree, they are fractured right now. It seems it compared to the Inner Circle, but it can regroup real quick. We've heard Chris Jericho mention that many times, as of recent, that, and I'm paraphrasing, that there's, they don't, amongst the Inner Circle, they don't fight, they don't get into, they don't drink on a job. He's taking shots at Hangman Page. They don't, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like, and he's right. Jericho's right. The Inner Circle, they are a cohesive unit right now. So if Blood and Guts would have happened today, it sounds like we're both agreeing that the Inner Circle would be the victors.
Yeah, and I mean, who knows when it will happen? We unfortunately we don't have that information to share with you. We'd love to be able to, but if maybe if it's in a couple months, maybe things are different. Maybe the Elite get their act together. Maybe they get it all all going. Wow. And Tez, looks like we got a question from Tony Wright. The ECW belt on the right, and that is that the world title, or is that the ECW television championship title?
World title, my friend. That's the world title. It's that has orange. So like underneath, like where the blood is, the little blood gimmick. If those that knows a puddle of blood under the word wrestling, my puddle was orange on that belt. And the word heavyweight wrestling is orange. So, and the inside, like the inside leather that touches your body, is orange and black snakeskin. So we had back then there were a few belts that were customized for champions. When Shane Douglas was the champ, I believe he had like a gold and black, an athletic yellow. That was his colors in black. His was kind of accented with that, I think, on the leather on the inside, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so that's the ECW World Heavyweight belt, not the TV belt. No.
So that's why ECW went out of business. Paulie just spending money on custom belts.
Well, we had a guy, you know what I mean? So he was good at making, he used to get oxtail soup, this guy over there on the
yeah. That's nothing to joke about.
We had a guy, yeah.
Mike Brinker, Jimmy Havoc versus Orange Cassidy. Your thoughts? Who you got, Taz? That's next week on Dynamite.
Man, you talk about two guys that just come off completely different. But when we saw Pac and Orange Cassidy go at it, what was it, Chicago, right?
Yeah, Revolution.
Dude, Orange tore it down, bro. I'm a big mark for Orange Cassidy. But I love Jimmy Havoc too. And I don't know. I mean, Havoc, as you know, he's vicious. You got to be careful with him. You know that. And so you got to watch with him. And you got Orange Cassidy, who he's unpredictable. Like he's a tough guy to read because he's got no emotion. You saw him tonight; he was banging on the apron to get it was hilarious, bro. I mean, like the guy's a trip. So he's just tough to read. Who do I think's going to win? I'm going to lean towards Orange Cassidy. How about you?
I think Havoc, because like we saw at Revolution, Orange Cassidy does have this. I mean, I guess what you could describe as a second gear. For a lot of guys, you call it fifth gear, but for Orange, it's second gear.
Yeah,
because he's always in first. But once he kicks it into second gear, he can. He's got tremendous athleticism. But the thing is, will he get that chance? And I think Jimmy Havoc, based on his training, he came up in that British system. He started training with Zack Sabre Jr., who's perhaps the best wrestling technician in the world right now.
This on Doc, about that. Actually, I did not. When you brought that up on Doc ways back, I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that Jimmy trained with Zack. I did not know that.
Yeah, and so he's got all of these tools, and just like Moxley has these technical tools, but he prefers to fight. Jimmy Havoc is kind of that same way, and damn well that Havoc saw what Orange Cassidy did at Revolution, how he surprised Pac, and how he was able to turn the tables on him. And I think Havoc just tries to shut him down, and he doesn't even let Orange get into second gear.
It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I just think somehow, some way, I think your breakdown is perfect, but I do think Orange Cassidy figures a way out to get the victory on this thing. I know. And like to your point, though, like Jimmy Havoc is a hybrid, and he's a hidden hybrid. He can grapple, he can go, he can do some that British catch style to the point we meant about Zack Sabre and stuff like that.
All right, Judge, I think we got time for one more. How do you think Hangman Page has changed as a wrestler since joining AEW?
Hmm. I mean, has he changed? He was awesome all his time working, in Japan and everything. And I don't know how much he's changed. I mean, besides the drinking, I guess, right? But that's a big change.
Well,
Um, he's we haven't seen him on TV obviously in a couple of weeks, but I don't think he figured out how to be one half of the AEW World Tag Team Champions. I don't think he's figured out how to be a great wrestler. I know you're not saying that to the person who asked the question. I don't think he's changed that much, except maybe drinking on the job, which is not right. You should never do.
Well, I think no offense to you, but I think I've seen a little bit more definitely called a few more Hangman Page matches than you have. And
well, hold on a minute. Hold on a second. Wait a second. How is that not a shot at me? No, I'm kidding.
God, did you see? I wish you could have seen the gears spinning for me to try to couch that as not a shot, but no, it's not. But but I think
me. I'm laughing. I'm having fun.
I know.
I never get angry. I just me. I'm easy.
Yeah, you send me a dirty text afterwards. But hey, what the fuck,
bastard? Not.
No,
you've called a lot of Hangman Page, a lot more matches than I have. You're right, but
and where he's grown, and actually, I mean, you can go back to All Out last September in Chicago. Hangman's confidence now, from when he came into AEW, like obviously he knew that he had the abilities, the gifts, and everything to be a generational talent, to be one of the top professional wrestlers, but he had never. Before All Out, he had never main evented a show for a world championship. That was the first time that he had done that. And so to do that on, the company's biggest pay-per-view at the time against Chris Jericho, all these things, I mean, you can believe in yourself, but until you really get out there and get your sea legs under you and all these things, you don't know, you don't know until you're tested. And now that Hangman has been in there, he's been in the fire with Jericho, I think the confidence is now finally there. And, he and Omega kind of fell into this opportunity to become AEW World Tag Team Champions, that, defeating SCU. That was never, I think if you go back to January 1st, 2020 and look at these men's vision boards, that would not be on there, but they kind of fell into that. And now they're having success as tag team champions. But I think Hangman's heart of hearts is in the singles division, and I think that's where ultimately his focus will migrate to. And I think we're going to see a lot more from Hangman Page now that he's held gold in AEW. He's going to be ready for whether it's the TNT Championship or whether it's the World Championship. He's going to have his sights set on either of those belts, maybe even both those belts. He could be the first ever Triple Crown champion in AEW.
He has the talent. He has the talent to pull that off. He might want to back off the Brewskis a little bit and getting shit-faced. But, there's been a lot of guys in the business who've been shit-faced and been world champions while they're shit-faced. So, but anyway, I digress. So, yeah, maybe he could pull that off. But no, I'm a fan of his work. I mean, no matter, when he was coming up, I've watched him enough. I have not called as many matches as you, and you've pointed that out point blank today. Just wanted to say that. So figure I'd share that with the group. You know what I mean? Sorry.
Well, I think that's a good note to leave on.
That's it, just like that.
Yeah. Well, hey, you got any TV recommendations for the folks watching?
Well, yeah, this is funny. It's kind of a TV recommendation. I'm glad you said that. So I'm a big Seinfeld mark. I think we've talked about this offline. You are too, I believe.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that sounds like a blow off. But anyway, well, you seem like you're a little disingenuous. So here's the thing. So here in New York, Seinfeld comes on like on regular TV at like 11 p.m. And then there's another one at 11:30 p.m. So I usually watch it. And I was a fan of it when the show was like around back in the day in the 90s. So I am like my son who's home because everybody's stuck here. So he's 21 years old, and he's like, "What are you watching? Seinfeld?" Yeah. He goes, "You watch it every night?" I go, "Yeah, I watch it every night. I mind my business and I watch it. It's my house. Yeah, I watch it." Right. What do you wait till 11? You can watch it on Hulu. I go, "What?" He goes, Dad, this thing is. He goes, that the whole gimmick is on Hulu. He speaks wrestler, and he's not a wrestler, right? So he grew up this way talking, so he knows, right? Wait a minute. You're telling me that everything, all of Seinfeld, he goes, everything. Every episode's on Hulu. Because you're sitting in that living room and you're waiting till 11 p.m. to watch freaking Seinfeld when you can watch it on Hulu anytime you want. So it's not really a TV recommendation. It's just I had like a senior moment, even though I'm not a senior yet. I guess I'm senior to some people, but you know what I mean? Like, so I guess you knew it was on Hulu.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, and then I'm now trying to log into the Hulu, which was tremendous. So, and then I can't find him in this house.
Okay.
So
yeah, which scrap of paper did you write your password down on?
Yeah, I can't find it. I mean, your login. It's like, no, I'm like, you heal.
So the beauty, I think, and this will be lost on this generation of television watchers, if they, or of people that consume media. The beauty of getting an episode of Seinfeld or The Simpsons or whatever it may be on television at 11 o'clock or whenever it is, you don't know what episode you're going to get. It's kind of, you get like the shuffle playlist version of it.
Exactly.
And whereas, if you watch it on Hulu or Netflix or whatever, you get, season 1, episode 1, season 1, episode 2. And, I think it's a lot more fun, especially on a show that I've seen so many times, like Seinfeld or The Simpsons or something like that, to get just like a little tasting from season 8, from season 3, like that's a little more fun to me.
This is why you're a well-refined man, okay? Because of these statements you just made. See, this is why this is really good, because you're 1,000% correct. So then I get the login for Hulu, and now they're all there, bro. Episode 1, season 1, episode 2, and I'm like, I don't know what to watch, and it's because they didn't decide for me like Scramble Jones,
right?
Like and then so now I know it's on Hulu, and I don't even watch them on Hulu. Now I'm missing it now, but because it's 10 minutes past. But that's all right.
I'm so sorry to break it to your Seinfeld time, Taz.
1995.
Well, while you're on Hulu, my recommendation to you is a very, very trippy show, but very, very interesting show. It's called Devs. It's about a near future in Silicon Valley. It's like a mysterious computer technology company, and the kind of things that I don't want to go too much into it and spoil it, but it is a very trippy show. It's directed and written by a guy named Alex Garland, who wrote Ex Machina, wrote and directed that feature film, and then did Annihilation a year or two ago. And so,
how many episodes is it?
It's the first season. I think episode 8 is going to air tomorrow, and that's the finale. So,
what I was going to watch was, and what's it called again?
Devs.
Devs.
Yes. I
was going to watch again. When I was talking to my son, he was watching help me with that movie. It's a few years old. Contagion. Yeah. He said it's like the most download movie right now because everything going on, you know what I mean, in the world. Mm-hmm. So he watched it again, and he said there's like a lot of weird connectivity of when that movie was done to what's going on in our world right now. Kind of crazy.
So it's really interesting. It's like almost these people in these health organizations years ago that made all these predictions about a global pandemic and all these things that we should do to kind of avoid it. It's almost like these people weren't listened to, and now we're in the situation.
No. Didn't we have JR did a little political rant last week? That was great.
Well, that's the most ranting that you'll get out of me. And I think actually, Taz, that's a good place to leave it. You've got Seinfeld to watch. I've got dinner to eat. So, folks, thank you for joining us here on the AEW Dynamite post show. We'll see you again next week. Myself, Taz, and I believe we'll have JR back with us. If you're not doing anything tomorrow at 8/7 Central, join Tony Schiavone on Facebook and YouTube for the Q&A live. And I think
I love Tony. He's great.
I really believe you, Taz. I really believe you.
I do. I'm busting chop.
All right, folks, thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Thanks everybody out there. Like Excalibur said, we appreciate you guys jumping on.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Have a good night. Stay safe out there.